We are in business.
Yeah. Hey, brother.
Hey, Al, how you doing?
So good. How are you?
Good. Good. Goody. Good.
Good. It's good to see you.
You too.
Thanks. And welcome everyone back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I am Allie Rosso.
And I'm Blake Murphy.
And just as it sounds, we are siblings who love true crime.
Yes, we love it.
Absolutely. And every week you're probably going to see that the video looks a little different. We are in the process and we'll keep changing it until we love it. So,
Yeah.
that being said, it's going to be different again next week.
We're like in the middle of it, so
Work in
we'll
process.
see.
All right, and if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, rate, comment, all the things. It means so much to us. Follow us. We
Subscribe.
are siblings in crime across all platforms.
Siblings in Crime Pod.
Siblings in Crime Pod across all platforms. That's right. So if you haven't yet, that'd be super helpful. It means so much to us from the bottom of our hearts. Before we get into this week's case, Blake, you've had a busy weekend.
Yeah, busy weekend. Went to Des Moines to fly. Flew to Houston. Good flight. Learned a lot. And then I went to Boston with Tatum for her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Awesome.
Shout out
Boston
birthday.
Sweet. Yeah, it was a good time. And now we're back here. So it was a good weekend.
That's sweet. Yeah, it was Memorial Weekend, which is super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to the troops. This week was awesome for us. We went camping in Utah. Super fun. Actually, the camping and the Montana, everything has what inspired us for this week's case.
Ooh, is it a wilderness one?
It's a wilderness one.
Yes.
Blake
I love
loves.
wilderness ones.
You love the wilderness.
Yeah.
It starts with being in Montana. This is where we're going to be in the Gallatin National Forest, which actually I didn't even know was a place.
Tennessee.
What?
Oh, yeah, Montana. You already
Yeah.
said it.
What do you mean Tennessee? That has nothing to do with. That's where you thought it was?
I was just guessing.
That's
Because
funny.
I thought maybe it was near the Smoky Mountains, which is one of the most visited national parks.
Look at you with your facts. Mm-hmm. That's true. But we're going to be in Montana, like I said, and in October. It's starting to get chilly. It's the kind of chill that I would need my big jacket for. But people in Montana are just out and about with their little flannels and light jackets and doing just fine. Somewhere deep in the woods, a tent sits tucked beneath the canopy of pine. It's the kind that gives the kind of peace and solitude that Mother Nature has to offer. The fire pit still holds its warmth, and the boots are sitting by the tent opening. A camp chair lies tipped on its side in the gravel, and there's no movement, no sound except the wind pushing through the trees. The man who set up this camp hasn't been seen since the night before. At first, no one panics. It's Montana. People lose signal. People take the long way out. But after another night comes and goes with no word, worry creeps in, and the search takes place. A car is found parked in the clearing, a tent half collapsed, and inside, something no one expects. This isn't a story about getting lost in the woods. It's about what happens when you get found. And this is the case of Dustin Kjersem.
Whoa, Dustin. I don't think I've heard this one.
This case takes place just last October in 2024.
Oh, wow.
Super recent.
Yeah, so, okay. Let's
You ready?
hear it. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's roll. The forest is still. Like I said, it's early October in Montana, and Thursday, October 10th, to be exact. The air is sharp with the scent of pine needles and fading firewood, and Dustin Kjersem sits at the edge of a glowing campfire in Moose Creek. So this is a pretty familiar area to him. Him and his girlfriend come camping here a lot. It's kind of like his hidden little gem. He is about an hour outside of Bozeman, where he lives and works. His boots are unlaced. He's completely relaxed in his environment. And there's a half-empty beer in one hand and a sky full of stars overhead. This is like where he feels like he belongs. Dustin is 35. He's a loving father, a man with a talent for woodworking, a love of the outdoors, and he's known for his ability to take on anything. He's like snowboarder, skateboarder. He will make anything with hands. He works in construction. He's very hands-on in everything he does.
Kind of like me.
Oh, yeah, super hands-on. You love Home Depot these days.
No.
No. You're learning.
Mm-hmm.
This trip isn't new to him. Like I said, it's done a dozen times. A solo overnight is not uncommon for Dustin. He decided to get a jump on the trip before meeting with his girlfriend the next day to finish out the camping together for the rest of the weekend. She knows where he is. He told her when and where to expect him. And so the plan goes as followed. He's going out Thursday. He's going to get them all set up. He's putting up the tent, get the whole campground set up.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's going to go back, or stay overnight, Thursday night, go back into town Friday and pick up his girlfriend who had to work the whole week.
Okay.
So he's picking up his girlfriend Friday evening. They're going to go back out, finish off the weekend at their campground.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a great plan.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
He sounds like a good guy.
Sounds like a great guy.
Gonna go set up.
Does
for
all the
her.
hard work.
Yeah.
Comes back, grabs her.
Yeah, she's living the life.
I know. It's beautiful. But now the fire crackles lower. The light dances against the nylon walls of his tent behind him, and he kicks another log into the fire pit and just leans back in his camping chair when he hears somewhere in the trees something is rustling. So he stops.
Bear.
He listens. It's not the wind. It's not squirrels. He knows those sounds. It's heavier than that. He still sits there. Fire pops. The noise stops for a little bit so he can able to relax. Dustin exhales, wondering to himself the likelihood of it being a bear. Like you said, it's kind of the season for it. They're not yet in hibernation. They're out making sure they're getting all the food needed.
Yeah, they're stocking up.
Getting ready
time.
for their slumber. Right. But he's packed up for that. His food is locked away. His cooler is secured. No trash is left out. And he has his firearms within reach. And so he's very prepared. He's done this before. And so he still keeps his flashlight close by just in case he wants to take another peek around.
Yeah.
Just in case. But there's no follow-up sound for a while. No growling, no shuffling. And so it's just quiet again. And he goes back to watching the trees when suddenly the noise and motion is back and closer than ever.
So is his girlfriend coming the next day?
Mm-hmm.
So he's going a whole night by himself.
Correct. Time goes on. It's Saturday, October 21st, 2024.
Okay, I don't think it was a bear.
We'll see. Dustin's girlfriend is getting uneasy. He was supposed to pick her up the day before, like we talked about, on Friday. They'd made the plans. He'd do the solo night, swing by, grab her, spend the weekend together. It's a typical routine for the two of them. But the clock is ticking and Dustin isn't showing. She checks her phone again. There's no messages. There's no missed phone calls. Maybe he's lost without service. Maybe he misjudged his timing. But the longer she waits, the more it feels wrong. Dustin's like not careless. They're very familiar with this schedule. He's not late. He doesn't do stuff like this. And she tries to shake it off, but instinct overrides logic. And so she calls a friend asking, come with me. We got to go check this out. Something's not right. They load into the car and start driving toward Gallatin National Forest. Dustin had told her exactly where he'd be. He was always good about that in Moose Creek. It was remote, but not totally off the map. As they wind up the mountains, cell signal drops, and the trees thicken. The road narrows, gravel crunches under the tires as they follow the forest route, and there it is. Dustin's car, parked, untouched.
So she knew exactly where they were camping?
Exactly. Yeah, it sounds like it's a familiar spot for them.
Yeah, their go-to.
Mm-hmm. She feels immediately something isn't right.
Mm.
They get out, her and her friend, and they start calling his name with no answer. They follow the short path to the clearing where he said he'd pitch his tent, and they see it. The tent is collapsed, like it's been trampled or ripped from the top. The fire pit is cold, and everything is still. She steps closer. The flap is halfway open, and so she leans in, and she sees blood and a lot of it.
Oh.
It was soaking into the nylon, spattered along the sleeping bag, and pulling beneath the lying dead Dustin.
Jeez. That's a sad sight.
Horrible.
For your girlfriend to see.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. I was like, it's traumatizing enough to see any sort of accident, but when it's someone that you are so close with.
Yeah.
And she knows that she's supposed to be there with him too.
Yeah.
Like they had plans. Terrifying. He's inside his tent. He's not moving. He's not breathing. She screams. And with a shaky hand, she goes to call 911. I imagine she had to go a little bit back down the mountain, as we know there's no cell service here.
Mm-hmm.
But when the 911 call cracks through the dispatch line, the words are jumbled. Something about a tent, a body, a lot of blood, and then silence. The Gallatin County deputies are dispatched to Moose County. along with the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks officers.
Mm-hmm.
The area is deep forest, rugged terrain, far from the nearest hospital or any civilization for that matter. They respond fast because the word bear is already getting tossed around, like you mentioned.
Mm.
When they arrive, the tent is how the caller described it. It's like pretty shredded, kind of collapsed. Obviously, a scene has been here. Dustin Kjersem is on top of his sleeping bag. Blood has soaked through the padding beneath him, and there are clear injuries to his head, deep injuries, jagged and all around his arms, and there's obvious defense wounds. The wildlife officer steps back and begins to assess the situation. He sees claw-like slashes on the tent, and the sheer violence suggests a wild animal, maybe like a grizzly. Mm-hmm. But then he circles the perimeter. There's no tracks, no drag marks, no fur, no signs of mauling, no food scattered or shredded, all typical signs of a bear attack. He looks at the tent again, then at the body, and realization sets in that this wasn't a bear. It's a homicide.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't a bear.
Wasn't a bear.
So I knew it.
So you knew it. Well, originally you said bear, then you said it wasn't a bear.
Yeah. Well, I just have to go with both just so I'm right.
Yeah, if you're going to say both, then always there's a 50% chance.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
And how terrifying. Like, the fact that they originally thought it was a bear, you can't imagine how gruesome that scene had to have been.
Oh, yeah.
Like, ugh, I hate that thought.
I wonder how they made the decision that it wasn't a bear.
Well, they, like all those things I mentioned where they didn't see any tracks. They, like the tall tale signs of like when there's a bear attack, like there's going to be like food scattered everywhere because they're usually like rummaging through everything.
Yeah.
Like so obvious tracks or fur, stuff like that. Oftentimes with grizzlies, this is so disturbing, but they drag their prey and keep their prey alive as long as they can and just like eat them alive.
Oh, wow.
Well, it keeps their meat fresh, according to all the outdoor things I see.
Dang.
Which is really smart of them, but very disturbing.
Yeah.
And so you'll see like accidents like that are really prolonged, and usually they're in like random, like the victims or the animals are in random locations and kind of hidden under bushes and stuff like that. So like the fact that Dustin was still in his tent and there wasn't any obvious signs of like rummaging through food and like paw prints and stuff like that, they're like, okay, now it's time to reevaluate. The campsite becomes a crime scene. Yellow tape goes up, photos are taken, every item is logged. They do everything right. And this is 2024. So they are familiar with DNA. Yeah. They are familiar with like
forensic team out there,
right,
looking for fingerprints and boot prints and blood, like other people's blood.
Yeah.
Whatever.
They're super familiar with how to do it right.
Yeah.
The gloves are on. They're preserving the scene. The tent is processed with sleeping gear, fire pits, cooler, everything, folding chair. But one thing stands out among the scattered supplies, and that's the beer cans. Half crushed, partially buried in the tent fabric. And they were like, you know what? Let's just swab those. Let's take all the beer cans. Let's just see if we can pick up any DNA, like you were saying.
That'd be the best place.
I know. Nowhere better. They collect it carefully and send it to the Montana State Crime Lab for DNA analysis. In the meantime, deputies fan out. They're looking for witnesses. But this is deep forest Montana. Like, no one's out and about for miles. And there's no tire tracks. There's no game cameras. No cell signal. It's just Dustin and his car. The autopsy comes back a day later. So they're moving quick on this case.
Yeah, that's surprising.
I know. There's a lot of things I'm like, wow, like, we are really progressing in like our findings.
Good work, Montana.
I know, they're onto something. They figured it out. So the autopsy comes back a day later. Multiple chop wounds to the head and neck. One wound to the face, no sign of animal attack, and the cause of death was blunt force trauma and sharp force trauma.
I've never heard sharp force trauma.
Yeah,
I thought just knife stabbings or slices or something.
Exactly.
Or an axe or something.
Right. Dustin fought back, but I mean, he never stood a chance against an axe.
Yeah, but didn't he have a gun?
This is where it gets confusing. Like, why wouldn't he defend himself? Which we'll go into. But only 2 days later, another call comes in. So we're moving quick. It's the DNA center.
Okay.
The DNA on the beer can is a match to a man named Darren Christopher Abbey. So we're pulling out a new guy. Darren, 41, has a record. Let me tell you, this guy is the worst of the worst. This guy's a big loser. Darren,
hiding out in the mountains right now.
Yeah, he's hiding out and out. But listen to his record. It's just wild. Darren Christopher Abbey isn't just like kind of like a drifter. Like, he goes to campgrounds. He's not necessarily homeless, but he doesn't spend much time in one place for very long. He's a man with a documented history of hate-fueled violence. His most well-known arrest dates back to July in 2021 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It was the 4th of July weekend when Darren, he was then 28 years old, approached a black man in a bar and began to harass him, poking him in the chest, calling him names, saying he doesn't belong in this white town, stupid stuff like that. Darren had flashy tattoos of what is typical with white supremacists, and he had a Nazi tattoo, or a swastika.
Yeah.
Marlon is the name of the African-American man, and he got up from the bar. He didn't want any contention. He was just trying to avoid the situation, not to cause a scene. But Darren would not let up and followed him out of the bar, continually being wildly disrespectful. The only good thing from the story is that Marlon's a freaking beast. Marlon is like, okay, I try to walk away. You're not taking the hint.
Yeah.
In defense, he turns around and punches Darren so hard in the face and knocks him out.
Nice.
I know. I was like so hyped. Literally knocks him out cold for a minute. Darren must have like missed Marlon's t-shirt he was wearing. He had a shirt that said right on the front, Spokane Boxing Club Champion.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wait, this guy is actually so sick.
Yeah.
When Darren comes to, he was shocked to see himself in handcuffs, reportedly telling the cops, like, what? You're arresting a white man? How embarrassing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this guy's a loser. Darren swore he got hit with a brick and wanted to press charges. And all the witnesses are like, nope, that was just straight fist.
Yeah.
So it's kind of embarrassing for him for many reasons.
Yeah.
So Marlon is a champion. He hasn't really made any comments on it, but he was just kind of like a local hero. Like, let's get this guy out of here. Darren was labeled as a white supremacist extremist by local media, rightfully so. And he went straight to trial. He was like, you're actually a horrible person. We're convicting you. So,
What?
well, that's what I'd say. What happened was he entered an Alford plea to malicious harassment, is what he got in trouble for. So, you know what an Alford plea is?
No.
Alford plea is basically defendants who enter this plea are admitting, they aren't directly admitting to guilt, but they're saying there's enough evidence that, like, people would probably say I'm guilty. Darren, as of 2011, is now a convicted felon because of this. This hate-filled action actually landed him in jail with a sentence of a maximum of 5 years. And I didn't really dive super far into this because it's kind of like a side note, and Darren doesn't deserve all the highlight. But from what I can tell, I don't even think he served 3 years of it because of a certain program he was in. It was like a harder probation, but it's kind of like a rehabilitation area program. So he got out a little earlier. But regardless, bad dude.
Mm-hmm.
His rap sheet included battery of a police officer, multiple DUIs. In fact, his 4th DUI, because you can't have so many on your record in Montana, it's actually elevated from a misdemeanor to a felony charge at that point. So he has a felony just on DUIs alone.
Yeah.
So
That's
obviously
crazy.
he has no self-control with substances and multiple offender. He has disorderly conduct, probation violations, resisting arrest, criminal mischief, and obviously just a whole bunch of hate and racism tagged onto that.
Yeah.
In multiple states, his name appears in connection with erratic and violent outbursts, many involving alcohol and public disputes. He has spent time in and out of jail much of the last decade. And by 2024, Darren is kind of drifting through Montana, staying at different locations, working odd jobs in construction, where he, and believe it or not, he has a twin brother who sounds very similar to Darren, unfortunately.
Yeah.
With just anger issues nonstop.
Crazy.
Yeah, seems like the DNA pool is a little tough right there. They're both known to be wildly angry and unpredictable and overindulge in alcohol and other substances.
Dang.
Yeah. So what people know of the Abbey brothers are like, keep your distance.
Yeah, not good guys.
Right. The twin is like in jail at this time. He's like in and out of jail, just like Darren. Mm-hmm. But on the night of October 11th, Darren crosses paths with someone who didn't know all this history about him and didn't know what he was capable of. It's now October 29th. So the incident happened on the 10th. We're 19 days later. Mm-hmm. The interrogation room is silent, except for the soft whine of the recorder. Darren Abbey sits across the detectives, hands cuffed, eyes low. He shifts in his chair, exhales through his nose. And just above a whisper, he confesses, I murdered Dustin Kjersem. They had their guy.
The sheriff's office is here to announce the arrest of Darren Christopher Abbey for the murder of Dustin Kjersem. This murderer is a 41-year-old male who is currently living in the Basin, Montana area and working in the Big Sky area. I will no longer refer to him by his name as I don't want to give him any further notoriety regarding this homicide. With the assistance of the Butte Civil Sheriff's Office and the Montana Department of Corrections, Probation, and Parole Officers, he was arrested, leaving a local establishment.
Darren then takes them step by step on how he says things played out. So this is his account.
Self-defense, I bet.
Classic. Mm-hmm. It's the evening of Thursday, October 11th, when he's talking to these people. It starts with a beer. That's what Darren first remembers. He was out looking for a place to camp. And this is when he came across the man that we know as Dustin Kjersem. Mm-hmm. Darren recalls that Dustin had a fire going. He seemed calm. He seemed super friendly. Told him to come over for a bit. He didn't mind company and offered him a beer. The tent was warm inside, and Dustin had a small wood stove heating the space. There was an air mattress in one corner.
He went in the tent?
He went in the tent.
That sounds weird.
There's gear stacked on the other side, and Darren stepped in with his dog following him to hang out with Dustin. That just shows Dustin who he is as a person. Mm-hmm. What a friendly... If anyone ever came to my campsite as I'm camping, I'd be like, whoa, back up. Like, that's creepy to me.
Yeah.
What a friendly guy. That's when Darren says things went wrong at this point. According to him, things started to unravel when his dog jumped onto his air mattress, leaving behind muddy footprints all over his sleeping bag. Darren saw it happen and says he apologized, said he took his t-shirt down to the creek to get it wet to come back and try and clean up the air mattress and sleeping bag. But he says Dustin wasn't happy. And according to Darren, Dustin said he's going to kill his dog and kill him too if he doesn't get out. How dramatic. The same guy that offered a beer and let you come into his tent. Something snapped. Darren claims he panicked. He stood up and grabbed firewood. He struck Dustin in the head with it and hard, and Dustin fell. Darren, seeing all the gear in the corner, grabbed a screwdriver and stabbed Dustin in the neck.
Holy cow.
He said that he was still moving, still trying to fight, and so that's when he finally grabbed the axe.
Oh, dang. That's nasty.
Horrible. Dark. He said not the blade side. Like, he hit him with the blunt side. But as we know, there's both blunt and sharp indications on his autopsy.
Yeah.
And just like that, it was over. The man who offered him a beer, who let him and his dog warm up in his tent, was dead on the floor, and Darren, just stands in the center of the tent, surrounded by the wreckage of what he just did, and just gets up and leaves.
Dang.
That's the most psychopathic behavior I've ever heard.
Yeah. He didn't even like call for help or anything.
Didn't do a single thing.
Just like left.
Well, the fact that Dustin, he's well experienced in camping, he has his shotgun and stuff with him.
Yeah.
Didn't perceive a threat, and because of it, came across the wrong guy.
Yeah.
On top of all this, after the killing, Darren Abbey doesn't go far. He actually comes right back. First thing he takes with him, well, let me rephrase that.
The same night?
Originally the same night. He came back and he tried to like get rid of anything that would have tied him to the crime scene.
Oh,
so
forgot the beer though.
Forgot the beer. He took the .44 Magnum pistol and holster, a shotgun and ammunition sleeve, 2 coolers, 2 cell phones, a binocular set, a headlamp, food items, clothing, and Dustin's axe. This guy's a freak. He takes everything he can. He washes the axe and screwdriver in the creek, trying to cover his tracks. He burns his shoes in a wood stove. He washes his clothes to remove bloodstains. He did everything he could think of. And when he realizes he forgot his hat the next day, he returns a second time and just decides to go pick it up.
Jeez.
This is freaky to me.
And he's like, no remorse.
No remorse. It's not out of shame, guilt, out of concern.
He's not even like scared. Like, he's not even like scared to go back to get caught. He's just like, oh, my hat. I'll go grab that real fast.
Yes, as if he just left it at his buddy's house.
Yeah.
That's what he told investigators. He was like, I didn't think anyone would be out there yet, and so I just decided to go get it. I'm like, that is the freakiest thing I've ever heard. Like, that's like
guilty.
Weird confidence
in
it, too. But, of course, as we know, what he leaves behind, seemingly the only thing he left behind was the beer can with his DNA. Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind, like I said, this is his version of events. By all accounts, everyone that knew Dustin, he is the most friendly, like, especially with other campers and everybody. He's, like, beyond kind, welcoming. And so, like, this does not line up with the Dustin they know. Well, it did up until the switch.
Yeah. Until the dog jumped on his bed, supposedly.
And that's like, okay, that's what triggered such an aggressive reaction.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, I can see truth to this story, but no one can pinpoint really what the motive was. It seems extreme to go and kill this man. But what Dustin is not, he's not a man who immediately threatened to kill a stranger for paw prints, like you said. So although we may have like some of the picture, we don't have all the picture, but it's enough to be like, okay, here's a clearer timeline of what could have happened to Dustin on Thursday.
Yeah.
That leads us to the courtroom. It's quiet. Darren Christopher Abbey sits on the defense table in a wrinkled orange jumpsuit, emotionless. Across the room, the gallery is filled with Dustin Kjersem's family and friends. A photo of Dustin smiling on a mountain trail is propped up beside the prosecutor's files. Darren Abbey pleads not guilty.
Okay. Shocker.
His lawyers argue
self-defense.
Self-defense. Exactly. They say Dustin invited Darren to his tent, that things got heated, and Dustin feared for his life. They present a narrative of survival, that the screwdriver, the axe, the blows, they were all reactionary to like him being in a fight or flight state of mind.
Yeah.
But the prosecution doesn't flinch. Like, okay, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Nice try. We haven't heard that before.
Yeah. Real original. Right?
Yeah.
They show photos. They show the blood-soaked sleeping bag, the axe injuries, both blunt and sharp end wounds, the beer can that Darren left behind. They play audio from his confession saying that I just hit him.
Yeah, and like not trying to get him help after.
Yeah.
Like most normal people would be like hit someone because of self-defense and then call the cops because like they probably want to be saved and want to make sure they get help.
And I think anyone that is in a normal state of mind, if they are scared for their lives, they will hit and run. You're not staying around causing severe damage and stealing everything you can.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly what you're saying. They asked the jury to look at Darren's history, not just like the hate crime in Idaho, but the pattern of battery, violence, anger. They remind everyone that Dustin, like, he didn't have his shotgun right there to use on him. I guess the shotgun was later found like in his, or depending on different sources, maybe it was like in the truck or something like that. Mm-hmm. But he had no history of violence, Dustin. He had offered him a beer. They were cozied up in a tent, for goodness sakes. Like, that is weird enough.
Yeah.
And Darren Abbey, after such an atrocious murder, he returned the next day, not in a panic or guilt, just looking for his hat, and stole some more items.
Yeah.
There is no self-defense, they say. Like, it's just cold calculation.
Yeah.
The verdict doesn't come all at once. And when it does, it's quiet, it's deliberate. The courtroom, it doesn't erupt. It just finally can relax. Darren Christopher Abbey is formally charged with deliberate homicide and 2 counts of tampering with physical evidence. The judge, referencing both the brutality of the act and Abbey's long criminal history, sentences him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. There is no emotion on Darren's face as the sentence is read. No final words, no apologies, just takes it.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, it's so freaky that you just don't know who you're going to ever come across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very creepy. Especially in the woods. Like, what are the odds?
I know. It's like you're the only one out there, and there's one other person, and he just happens to be the most horrible man ever.
Yeah. And the weird thing, too, is, like, he doesn't have that big of a history of, like, attacking people or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like, a couple, like, DUIs and one instance of something like that. But
Right. Sounds like he has a whole lot of hate and anger.
Yeah.
Some people speculate, like, this is where Darren wanted to camp. And
he wanted
so
to take it.
the fact that somebody was in his spot.
That's what I was kind of wondering. I was like, what would be the point of him trying to attack him?
There's nothing that shows for sure what the motive is. He never has come out and been like, this is why. Keep in mind, this is like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Super recent. So
Stuff
things
will
are
come
like
out.
still, yes, things are probably still unfolding. But there's no obvious motive besides maybe anger or like he won that campground or he just has issues with people in general.
Yeah. Maybe he said something
That triggered him.
That triggered him in the moment.
Yeah. Especially with someone that is known to be angry all the time, has such a short fuse.
Yeah.
Like the most simple comment may have just thrown him off.
Yeah. True.
In the days after Dustin's passing, a wave of grief settles over Bozeman. He's remembered not for how he died, but how he lived. His obituary describes a man with quiet strength, a gifted woodworker, a devoted father, a boyfriend, a son, someone who loved the outdoors so deeply he made it his sanctuary. Friends described him as thoughtful, patient, someone who knew how to listen, someone who made room for people, even strangers. His sister, who took over as Dustin's legal guardian when Dustin was only 17 years old, gave an interview found on Fox News that highlights the type of man Dustin was and how he will be remembered.
And he was so sweet. I was a young mother, and so he helped me so much. He was the best uncle. I mean, as a 17-year-old boy, he would sit with my daughter and have tea parties with her, for hours. And he's just so patient and giving of his time to anybody, that mattered to him. He was a great kid. And then you got to see that happen when he had a daughter. Just the patience, the love that he had for kids and his family.
At his memorial, those who knew him gathered beneath an open sky. They gathered at Headwater State Park to reflect on the memories they will cherish forever of the man that was taken too soon. And maybe that's the tragedy. Dustin Kjersem did not die because of recklessness, but because of his kindness.
Oh, yeah, that is sad.
So ironic.
Yeah.
And that's the story of Dustin Kjersem.
Dang.
Kind of a heartbreaking one.
Spooky. It makes you kind of not want to be helpful and stuff, which is sad.
I know. And Dustin's sister's a big camper. She's like, I've always loved camping. Now I have like no desire.
Mm-hmm.
Like you hear horrible stories like this. One, it's terrifying. Like
Yeah.
you just never know who you're gonna come across. And two, what she loves so much is now just like a painstaking memory of her brother who
Yeah.
came across the wrong guy.
Yeah. Like I've heard like a couple podcasters talk about how like, oh yeah, I'm never going to help someone on the side of the road because I've heard too many stories about people getting attacked and vice versa. And it's like, yeah, it's sad that like you can't do a good deed because there's fear of something happening to you and someone using that as to stage something to get you. Yeah, exactly.
Which is so creepy.
Yeah.
I hate that. I know. I used to pick up hitchhikers every so often when I saw them. Brett gets so mad I'm not allowed to do it anymore.
Yeah, not hitchhikers.
I know.
Especially as a girl.
I know. It's not smart, but like anyways, that's the time. That's for another day.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. See, I just thought I was doing a nice thing, but as long as they didn't look
Nice
sketchy.
thing until you die.
Evidently. And I would like only if I'm on the phone with somebody would I do it, but
Maybe
anyways,
only a
no
girl.
longer doing that. I tried and then I thought it was women.
Yeah,
and then it turned out to be a man, and I was like, okay, well now I'm in a pickle, but I still gave him a ride. But anyways, I got in trouble. So
yeah, I gave a guy a ride a while back. Tatum and I were gonna go to a Suns game, but I was in Phoenix for something else, and he needed a ride to Chandler.
Oh, gosh.
And then I was like, all right, fine, I'll just give you a ride, and then I have to go because like he was trying to get an Uber and it wasn't working or something. And on the drive, he's like, yeah, I just got out of prison. I was like,
You're like, I'm actually gonna pull you over right here.
I was like, he was really nice though. He's like, yeah, this thing and this thing happened, and then nothing happened. But like at the end, I was like, that could have been bad.
You could be really bad. Goodness
like,
gracious.
whoa.
I'm surprised he was comfortable telling you that. I'd be like,
Yeah.
please don't leave me here.
Yeah, we were talking for a little bit before it even.
That's
but,
funny.
Yeah, it was like, he's like, yeah, I just got out of prison for all this stuff, and I was like, oh dang. I don't remember if it was anything violent. I think it was just drugs, but
Regardless, don't be like us. Don't pick up people unless
yeah,
you're
not anymore.
unless you're with enough people that you feel safe or
Yeah.
something. I'm not quite sure.
Mhm.
It's sad because you want to do the kind acts, but sometimes the kind acts don't come back in return.
Yep. True.
Do you have any not so fun facts for me?
Yeah. Let me look. All right. So these are facts and stats of murder in the woods. Over 600 people, 600,000 people
Dang
go
it.
missing in the U.S. each year, and 4,400 unidentified bodies are recovered annually, many in remote, wooded, or rural areas.
I was hoping you were going to just say 600. I'm like, oh, that's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
600,000.
Yeah, that's a lot. All right, according to the FBI, nearly 70% of homicide victims are found by someone they know. But in outdoor or remote murders, that number drops a lot, obviously. Many of those cases involve strangers or opportunistic killers, like today.
Ew.
A lot of times I feel like the people that find those people are hunters.
Yeah.
Like
That's going to be
people-
so sad. You're just
Yeah.
out and about. Like, I can't imagine. This sounds bad, but it's because I've been working on this case. I went on a run yesterday, and it's like a really wooded, like, path. And I had that thought, I was like, people are just on jogs and they find bodies in the bushes and stuff. Like, how terrifying, first of all, and how sad that this, like, bodies are just disposed of. Like,
Yeah.
frilly willy. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Seriously. It says the National Park Service reports over 1,000 suspicious deaths and disappearances in the U.S. national parks since 1969, many with no clear resolution. So, 1,000 people with suspicious deaths
And we just don't know anything.
over the past, 50-something years.
Dang.
So, yeah. The last fact of the day is 75% of campground homicides in the U.S. over the past 50 years occurred in isolated or primitive sites rather than in developed campgrounds.
That makes
So they
sense.
stay away from.
Dang it, we didn't go camping in a campground this last time.
Yeah.
When we were out there, I was like, I'm
Gotta
so
be careful.
scared. Our, like, what is it, our second episode or something like that about the college girls that got hacked up with an axe. The Klein, oh gosh, now I don't remember the title of it, but the Klein Falls, I think it is. But anyways, that case, as I thinking about that, I'm like freezing in my sleeping bag, thinking, I was like, what if someone just rolls us over with a truck and pulls out an axe? Like,
Oh, jeez.
I like can't camp the same after reading these stories, but
Yeah, I bet.
I guess it's good to be diligent.
Diligent?
Yeah, like knowing these things makes me want to be more prepared.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, now we have all of our weapons ready. We're like,
Mhm.
I'm never gonna go camping alone. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah, I'd be scared too.
Yeah, way too scary. But those were not fun facts, so you know that. But thank you for tuning in this week to Siblings in Crime. It's kind of a different one. I know Blake likes camping ones, but next week maybe we'll do a little bit more of a conspiracy. There's a couple that I've been looking at that might be a little different, a little more fun. So thanks for tuning in. Tune in next Wednesday for another episode of Siblings in Crime.